All right, let's talk beginner enhancement strategies, tips, and tricks so that you can maximize your effectiveness of enhancements. And some of this stuff, it's going to be game breaking. It's going to make you so powerful, it's ridiculous. I'm not going to give a ton of specific examples. It's not going to be by class. It's going to be more a general overview of how you should be thinking about enhancements, but there are some tips in here that are going to make you ridiculously overpowered. Okay, let's get started. Make sure that you don't enhance cards that have a later level card that is similar and, functionally better or stronger. Because it's really easy to get caught up and go, oh, I use this card a lot right now. And then later on, once you're level 6 or 7 or whatever it may be, you're like, I don't even want to take that card with me anymore because I'd rather take this card. It does the same thing for me. And so take a card like Sweeping Blow for the Brute, and then we've got Brute Force. And you would never want to upgrade Sweeping Blow because Brute Force is just a better version of that card. And so just make sure you're looking through your cards and trying to have a decent understanding of where you're going to go in your build paths throughout your later levels. Be careful around fringe builds. One of the things I like most about Gloomhaven is that there's multiple different build paths and synergies and anti-synergies within the class as you level up. So just be careful that when you're enhancing, that you don't enhance something that's a very fringe build and it's based upon one card, and then somebody who uses the class later on, they won't get that benefit. Or even yourself if you decide to try and change to a different build. So try and enhance cards that are mostly guaranteed to be good regardless of which build path you decide to take for the class. Adding Bless or Strengthen to heals that target all allies. And the best examples of these are ones that just say, heal 1 all allies with no range requirements or anything. Then you add a Bless or Strengthen on that, and it can get crazy, especially if you've got an ally that has summons. So, let's say, for example, your ally has a couple summons out and you're in a 4-player party. You add a Bless to something, you could put 5 Blesses out, right? 2 summons plus 3 allies, stuff like that. So make sure you're looking at anything that targets a lot of other allies to add Bless and Strengthen to, and you can do some really crazy things. And make sure it's a reusable card as well. And if you could put out 3, 4, 5 Blesses or Strengthen 3, 4, 5 allies every rest cycle, I think you'd be happy with that. I hope you're liking the video so far. If you are, please go ahead, hit the like button. It really helps me out a lot. And subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so that when I publish new content, you're notified. Notifications is the little bell. Also, I work with Noble Knight Games. They've just got a crazy selection of rare stuff, out-of-print stuff. And so I've put a link down in the description. If you go ahead and click on that link and you buy something through them, I make a small commission. I really need your help to, grow the channel and get better and better. And Noble Knight Games, they have everything. They have the largest selection of games in the world. It's really quite impressive. Board games, card games, role-playing games, you name it, they've got it. All right, let's get to the next tip. A tale of 2 great halves. Some cards are just better than others. The top is a rock star, the bottom is a rock star. Be very careful about enhancing one of those cards because those type of cards, you might use them 50% of the time for the bottom and 50% of the time for the top. And so if you enhance a half of the time you're not going to be using it. You're going to be like, I need to use this crazy move forward jump on the bottom. And then you've got a really good top attack. And so you've enhanced the top attack, but then you're like, well, I need to use this move forward jump. And so just be careful that you're actually going to use the enhanced half of the card the majority of the time. Enhancing multi-target cards costs more, but is often much more effective than enhancing a single target card, because regardless of how many targets the card hits, the enhancement cost is just going to be double. So if you can get something that's got 3+ targets and you add another target, and we're not talking about AoE, we're talking about the little target symbol. The more targets, the more the effect, the more your enhancement is going to affect the power. So if you hit 4 targets and you add +1 damage, that's +4 damage every use versus +1 damage for a single target. So even though it costs more, look for those level 1 cards that have a bunch of targets that you're going to be able to use multiple times, and you're going to get a ton of usage out of that enhancement. Gold is a finite resource. And so anytime you're going to do an enhancement, you've got to compare the effect of that enhancement versus what items you currently have available. So you want to make sure and accelerate your power curve so that you can play on harder difficulties, make more gold, etc. But to do that, you've got to make sure that you're making the most effective move. So just make sure you're comparing that. Compare the enhancement versus items that do similar things, and make sure that the enhancement is actually going to be worth it. And remember, you can only have a limited amount of enhancements on for each class. Enhancing lost cards is almost never a good idea because you don't get to keep playing them. Sometimes with a card that's just a discard, you can play like 10 times in a scenario. No matter what you do to a lost card, it's almost never going to be as effective as enhancing a discarded card or a card that is not lost. And so just make sure when you're looking at it, even if it's a powerful effect for that one time, over the course of a scenario, enhancing a non-lost card is almost always going to be better. Maybe there's some exceptions. There's probably a couple. Spellweaver can use lost cards more than once. So if you're Spellweaver, it doesn't apply to you as much, but just make sure you're thinking about that when you're looking for cards to enhance. Adding Strengthen to a bottom action that targets yourself, and if possible, targets yourself and all your allies. And the main benefit here is when you strengthen yourself with a bottom action, you can actually be strengthened for 2 turns. So you're going to strengthen with your bottom action. You're going to attack with your top action, which is now strengthened. Then the strengthen lasts until the end of your next turn. So next time you go, you're also going to be strengthened. This is very powerful, giving yourself advantage for 2 turns in a row. Large AoEs and adding Curse or Disarm. This is the game-breaking part. Some of these you can just get absolutely ridiculous with. Like take Dirt Tornado for the Craig Heart. Put a curse on that and it just gets wild. I actually generally don't do these because they're too good. But if you want, it's totally fine to, become super overpowered. And so adding Curse or Disarm to a large AoE is pretty much going to be your most powerful enhancement strategy, period. And absolutely game breaking. Hopefully this video helped, and thank you so much for watching.